Well, Larry,
Yes.
we're,
Many technical issues. It's finally resolved.
yeah, hello everyone. We're laughing because we're sitting in Larry's backyard and trying to set up our video technical setup here, and we had some challenges to overcome, but I think we did it.
Yes, we
So
did.
that's good.
Yeah.
And I thought we have a topic today that came to
We
mind.
do?
Yep, I do.
Okay.
It's in
So
my
you
mind.
must have picked up on it when I was like elsewhere.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
And the topic is change.
Okay.
Change. And what I'm thinking is this. I came up here to Maine to visit you, and it was a change of scenery for me.
Yeah.
It's something that I needed. I wanted to get away from my daily activities and experience change, have an open mind, experience something new, number
Yes.
one. And then we traveled around over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
And I saw a beautiful different landscape that I usually see. And you told me stories about the maritime history of this area here in Maine. And, I live in Savannah. So I think how have times changed over the hundreds of years, even from a landscape point of view?
Substantially.
Yeah. And then, we visited some people, we see their interactions, we see there's changes going on, interactions between people change as well. So if I put this in the context of what's going on in the world and what may be going on in a lot of people's minds is that topic of change. How do I deal with change? How do I manage it? Or how do I just be with it?
Or how about more simply, how do we observe it? Because the challenge is most of the change that is occurring is because people have forgot the root understanding and the root truths that we've emerged from. And they get caught up in the process of change instead of being able to observe it to see how they're defined by God to integrate through the process of change. So they're swept up in it, and before they know, they're consumed by it. Instead of being able to take a breath, as we talked about before, the importance of drawing directly to God's presence, breathing deep within God's presence, and actually welcoming the fact that God has clear understanding. Me, within this human place, I may not have the understanding, but if I move into the divine oversight, I can see, oh, I may not understand the outcome, but I understand who I am with. I am with God's presence within me. Change can unfold, change can happen, things can unfold, but as I seek Creator first, I will know the proper response in this situation. Or if I'm given a certain understanding, I see Creator and I can find the deeper understanding within that thought process.
But do you think maybe change doesn't exist? Maybe from a divine perspective, is it just us humans that think things are changing and we have difficulty dealing with it?
Well, actually, if you look at, like, when we were at our friend's house, here are these amazing, gorgeous animals. We had wild fox coming up and visiting us, and we had cats roaming around and doing different stuff like this, and then there's coy dogs, like blended, like wolf with wolves and huskies and stuff like that blended together. So you encounter this, and all this stuff we as humans perceive as actual change isn't even relevant to them. And they're living in this state of blessing. They're living in a state of life. They are heightened to watch out for harm, but they're also just living it. They're not in this consumptive view of, what am I going to do to affect this? What am I going to affect that? How am I going to fix this? How am I going to fix that? They're just living it out. So I think that there's a balance between the nature of how we've gained intellect, how we've gained our perceived awareness of God, and then what's unfolding in the world. And you and I have talked about this before, the importance of understanding that there are past things that have occurred to you. There are things that have come against you that aren't great. Those are not the things that define you. God's presence within you defines you. The measure of the experiences in the past either confirm and verify God's presence with you, or confirm and verify things of a spiritual nature that have governed a result that you've experienced: anger, frustration, fear, depression, whatever. So if people could see Creator first, they wouldn't be consumed by the change. They'd realize that they're positioned by God to observe through discernment and know whether they're supposed to engage within this process of increase or ascension, or are they supposed to move away from this to allow for that to be for somebody else, or just let it unfold? Kind of like the cat sitting in the, when we were dealing with Buddy.
Right. Yeah.
And I went down to pet that. He's just such a sweetheart and a beautiful cat. And you realize all the things we just discussed, he doesn't have a freaking clue. And he's happy as can be. He's ecstatic being loved. And he comes back over and sheds love back on you. And that's how simple it was. So there's like this place between the two, I think.
Are you saying we should be more like animals? I mean, animals, do they really have the intellect that humans have? I know we say dolphins are very intelligent, different other animals, but they don't express that intelligence in a way that humans do. So therefore, I think we probably say they're less intelligent than we are. We don't perceive them as intelligent. But are you saying that maybe we just need to let go?
Simplify.
Don't think that much?
No, don't think as much. Well, now we also have to recognize that there are things beyond our understanding occurring on this earth now. And I'm not just talking about the political influences or the human influences or the sickness influences or whatever's going on. There are spiritual things unfolding, and animals are impacted by that spiritual nature as well. And I would say that most of what animals experience on a spiritual nature, the impact upon them is inflicted on them by the nature of man. Man's encroachment upon them, which introduces to them the spiritual experiences that they're in. So, for instance, you and I were sharing a video this week of the story of Diablo on the way to spirit, the journey of Diablo to spirit. And you cannot deny these things when a person is sitting there gaining communication from an animal that they had no interest, no understanding of their past, no understanding of what this animal went through. But when this person was listening to the animal describes specific details that nobody even serving the animal knew. So you have to recognize that we can't be so arrogant to think that we're the only ones that hold intellect. We're the only ones that hold awareness. We convey and communicate our perception of awareness different than, say, the panther that was Diablo, who was named Spirit, because he said, the name you have given me as Diablo comes with too many connotations of darkness.
Right.
So if that animal is able to recognize that what you've named me as is too dark, I wish for something of greater light, and somebody names him Spirit, and all of a sudden, in a breath, that animal changes from this darkened state to this bright, recognized, honored, respected creature. Again, we have to move out of intellect and seek God to recognize, God, what are you showing me? So that comes back to this, as this process of change is unfolding, that in that case of Diablo becoming Spirit, there was much change that affected Diablo.
Yeah.
But the minute that he was able to communicate it openly and be heard, all of a sudden the way he was defined of the past by the wrongs against him went away. And he just became the regal prince, child of God that he is.
Yeah.
Once he was seen and heard for who he is, not what the situations of his past defined him as.
I just want to quickly explain to some people that may not have seen this clip, and I watched it this morning for the first time. I saw the shortened version, but it's about a leopard. It's a leopard, a panther, a black panther that was neglected, misused in a zoo and rescued, and then brought to this animal trainer that was trying to take care of it. And the panther was just aggressive, couldn't be handled, needed to be in the cage, would have attacked other animals. So there was no way that he could see to tame that animal at all.
And he was very well versed at it with lions, tigers, leopards. I mean, there wasn't a problem with it. And they showed great affection toward him in return.
Exactly.
Now all of a sudden this new entity comes into their midst.
Yeah. So and then what happened is there was this animal whisperer, or I don't know about it, that came. It's a woman that was able to tune into that animal and have a communication and learn all that wisdom from the animal, the troubles that the animal has experienced. And the name changed from Diablo to Spirit that the animal wished. And then the panther became peaceful, pacified, could run out with the other animals. And it was an incredible story. But you know what I find really interesting when I watch this morning is, isn't that kind of symbolizing human relations that we have?
Yeah.
Now, often we get in touch, we get confronted with people that may have an aggressive stance.
Yeah.
And we don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
And I know you and I, we had a lot of discussions about that.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you can enlighten us a little bit about how to deal with that. Because
well, let's look at that as an example. Here's this guy that, in an undefined point of arrogance, thought he knew animals. And to watch him be torn down when he was just dismissing it as a problem animal, and then this person came in and became contemplative, present, seeking the higher understandings, and opened herself to say, what are we missing?
mm-hmm.
And in my understanding, that is creator first, and she has the same mindset that she approaches into source, creator's presence, and then searches what this beautiful creature is about to reveal. Mm-hmm. Now, that same beautiful creature is just like the arrogant guy coming at us, or the arrogant office worker, or the arrogant woman coming at us in this arrogance, in this aggression, in this hostility. If they had jaws to bite, they would bite. Mm-hmm. So are we allowing for that contemplative resolve to actually embrace spiritual fortitude, to say, this doesn't define me? What this person displays in their actions does not define me, but they're revealing to me the fears that they themselves contain. Mm-hmm. Like in the case of Spirit. Spirit had great fear that there were impositions rested on him because he was in this place. Mm-hmm. He had fear that there was expectations. He was to be a certain thing. When it was told to him, there are no expectations on you. You are free to live as you desire in the safety of this ground so that you're not seeing harm and that you're provided for. Mm-hmm. And that's when he rose in the regal sense that what's around me is there. So now you're dealing with a human. That human is in that state, but you choose God first in your observation of how this person's behaving. You sense a fear rise within you. You release that spirit of fear. You release the desire to fix what is presented before you because a person has just changed. No, they didn't change. They're merely revealing to you what's been governing the nature of their actions. They're moving in such a way that they're governed through anger. The liver is heated. They're coming at you in an aggressive tone, or they're coming at you in anger or hostility. I will guarantee you that if you relinquish fear, observe, and listen, you will find that they will stall spiritually. They won't be able to function in anger, aggression, or hostility. Mm-hmm. It will literally ebb away with them, and they won't understand why they don't have power to be aggressive toward you because you haven't taken up the mantle to join them in that nature. And I've shared a couple of stories with you in the past that where some people tried to do that with me, and I was led not to be in it.
Yeah, I think there's a fine line between ignoring someone or some situation, and just like ignoring it, versus I think you're talking about something more. Yeah, it's not just ignorance.
Yeah, it's contemplative observation,
right?
And intercessory awareness that it is not by my power that I'm going to succeed in helping this individual. This individual is revealing to me that there is anger, but usually rooted in anger is a fear. That they fear that I may have somehow violated them or wronged them in some way that they don't know about, or they might be harmed by somebody, or their name might have been besmirched by somebody else to me. And they're coming at this in an anger and in a defensive nature, and I'm just releasing defense, but I'm listening and I'm attentive while being God's presence. It's not like I'm listening to all of what they're saying in their furor, in their hostility, in their aggression, but I'm looking through what are they revealing to me. I don't take offense to it. That would be spiritual offense. I don't take the desire to dismiss their words. I'm honestly looking through what are they revealing to me, and I realize, oh my God, he is really afraid of what other people have said about him. How dare you? I can't believe that you're willing to believe this sin. That person said blah, blah, blah. Honestly, you're going down a path that I can't agree with you. Nobody said that to me. What? And that the person will come out of this anger like realizing, oh, this person hasn't been implicated in this thing that I was fearing, like being seen as less than I am. But again, don't get lost on the words or this description of the situation. This is every encounter that you have with another human or another animal or any being upon this earth, if it's rising to you in a sense of fear, it's rising to you in a sense of aggression, you don't have to respond in aggression. You can allow yourself, like there's even physical characteristics you can do. If somebody's coming at you in anger, you can just turn a little bit to the side, looking at them, and pay attention to what they're saying. Because then it's not this on front attack or frontal defensiveness. It's this shedding off to the side, and energetically, whatever they're projecting at you isn't laying hold. It's deflected off, and you're present and you're contemplative. That is God first, not what this person's revealing me. Mm-hmm. And the person will show you more. So now the anger's been peeled away. And then they're, oh, well, I thought you were involved in it. No, sorry, I can't. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know what they said about you, but honestly, I'm not sure what you're upset about. Tell me more. What's going on? Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, they hear somebody that's heard them. They've seen them in their anger. You're praying within your own heart for them, intercessorily, to be freed from the anger, freed from the offense that has come against them, free from the deception that others may be resting upon them. And you're just praying in your heart as you're listening to them relate how they were accosted by other people or what was done to them, not getting caught in the story again, because we're in that divine overview that is God first, and seeing that he's only revealing to me what needs to be healed, not something that's broken or wrong.
It's beautiful. It's a whole different, it's a paradigm shift.
It is.
For many people, for me too. And I'm starting to understand it more and more. And we have talked together for about 8 years now.
Yeah.
I'm continuously learning and then learn more and more. Now, what we just described may be an aggressive situation, that needs to be dealt with immediately. But let's talk about maybe subtle things, relationships, between a man and a woman. I do marriage counseling, and we talked about it. And, I occasionally have a couple that returns a test. I'm doing like a survey where I can see where they stand and where they have opportunities to communicate better and be a better union, and find myself in situations where I say, wow, okay, this may not be a problem right now, but it could be in 7 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. So these subtle things, they seem to settle into people slowly, and you don't even know it, and all of a sudden you realize down the road, oh my goodness, what do I do about this? And so to recognize and see that would require a prayerful approach to just everything.
It requires discernment, not intellectual awareness. And I'm not talking about intuition. I'm not talking about psychicism. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about trusting God, that if I have been named a psychic, I give that back to God and I choose discernment over psychicism. Mm-hmm. If I have been named intuitive, I trust God to give him the intuitive nature within me so that I would be governed through discernment for the sake of those that I'm sitting before. So it's about moving to the divine attribute. It's the opposition of the one that seeks the spiritual realm, or like from a psychic standpoint or whatever. It's almost like a spiritual voyeurism, because I'm looking into people in places they probably don't want me. So I'd rather trust God and say, God, I give unto you the psychic nature that has risen within me. I trust you to disseminate, God, what you wish for me to share and what this person wishes to share. So I'm not in their realm or their field. And that increases respect in the moment. But again, it's not an intellectual process. It's a process of surrendering to what the divine already knows. It's not something you have to discover. It's knowledge that is already present. Mm-hmm.
So can we be practical about this for a moment? Let's take a couple situation. I'm trying to think off the cuff of a situation where there's a conflict, a minor conflict between a man and a woman or a couple, and whereas they are not in agreement what the other is doing. So one wants to be alone this afternoon. The other one says, no, I need you here.
Yes.
How do you, on both sides, how deal with that situation?
Well, in that respect, first of all, you have to start off with the understanding of what is agreement. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to the foundation of your beginning of your statement. Most people don't even understand what the fullness of agreement is. They don't understand that agreement isn't just, yeah, it's okay, I'll do it. The fullness of agreement is people bringing to each other, what did God say? My children perish for the lack of knowledge. So what happens is many times people are going along with assumptive reasoning. Oh, they already know what I mean. They don't know what you mean. To display enough love to say, honey, I love you dearly, and I really think that I need to share something because I think I'm not quite understanding. I think I understand what you're saying, but I need to understand more of what you mean, not just what you said. So you're sitting there and it's a simple issue that could eventually be a problem. Like you said, well, next Tuesday, I plan on going blah, blah, blah. And, oh, yeah, she said, I want to go out with the girls. That's fantastic. Okay, we agree. Tuesday comes up. Is there fullness of agreement? Like, did the two of you back on Saturday when you were discussing this honestly pray together? Did you take the simple act when you saw your bride or a person saw their groom or their partner, when they embraced them and they wanted to take on this discussion? Did they take the moment to go, oh, honey, it's great to see you. Oh, wait, let's just take a deep breath and let's let this embrace be the prayer of recognizing God in our union. And then from that foundational moment, now every bit of communication changes. So now, Saturday instead of Tuesday, you're discussing, I was thinking that I wanted to go be with Jim and hang out. We were going to do paragliding or, whatever the plan is, Tuesday afternoon. But you've approached this first to recognizing God within your union, the love that you embrace as partners in your union, the love that you feel of God's presence, and you're guided through a process of discernment, not just intellect, as you relate the knowledge that needs to be known to protect you from the perishing nature of the union. So now, I was thinking I'd like to go hang out with Jim on Tuesday, and see what's going on. And, oh, well, cool. I wanted to go hang out with Susan, and she's talking about Susan, you're talking about it. Fantastic. And you come to a place of first agreement with God because you chose the prayer of God's presence in the nature of your union. Second, brought up the matters and interest, concerns, thoughts, ideals. Well, how are we going to do this? Can we really afford this right now? Well, he said he's paying for the paraglide time. The only thing I'd have to think about is the gas getting full. Oh, we can handle that. So again, fullness of agreement brings out the knowledge that would cause perish if we don't bring the knowledge to one another. Clear and open communication, but in my heart, God first.
What if it's not in the partner's heart? Doesn't want to hear the word God, doesn't believe in God.
Fine. Let's let this embrace be the fact that we are in agreement with one another, and we just sit down in the love of our union. Okay. It may not be the word God, but you know in your heart that it's returning to source, and you know that you were given this beautiful bride as part of your union. You know it was given to you by God, source. Mm-hmm. So you know in your heart that as you're embracing, even if a bride or a groom is not interested in hearing the word God, you help them to recognize that even as I embrace you, let's just make this about agreement within our union. And I'd just love to talk to you about some exciting things. And I want to talk to you about some things that I think are coming up. And I want to make sure we're clear on that.
Yeah.
So again, if a person, even if they can't handle the idea or concept of prayer or God, you can still identify the foundation of your union. As I'm hugging you, I want to thank you that we have this blessed union, but I also want to share with you some things that I think would be really cool for us, and then also some great things that happen, but also talk about some plans that are week to come. Yeah. So it presents the person with the opportunity to realize, oh, he or she loves me enough that they take the moment, turn this embrace into the reminder of our union, not just, hey, honey, hey, call that, and two ships going in a different direction, one running to work, the other one coming home from work. But it presents you that moment, even if it's 3 simple breaths. The two of you taking 3 simple breaths together and then discussing something real quickly. Hey, maybe we don't have time to get into all the subjects right now, but I just want to make sure, like for this week coming up, are you okay with the fact that I wanted to make plans with Jim on Tuesday? Oh, no, fine. Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm a little concerned about the money. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, no, he said he's paying for the paragliding. We're going to go do some stuff. We're going to have some fun. And she's like, paragliding? Now she's all of a sudden displaying a fear of losing you, fear of heights. Say, honey, we can release that fear. I really get the sense within my heart that it is all good. It is clear. This is in right direction. It's not going to bring any harm. And I know that all the safety practices are in place. You know, I've done this before. Don't worry about it. So can we release the fear together? Now, she may not want to hear I release it and replace it with God, but you can release the spirit of fear with her and then welcome the reality that God's presence is known within his daughter.
Yeah. It's just fascinating. You know, it sounds so easy and clear.
Like the way God would make it instead of man, huh?
Yeah. But when you say it, it's like, okay, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So, you know, and over the years, we have repeated this and talked about this. And then, you know, I go back into my life.
Yeah.
And then I find myself, oh my God, I need to practice this.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, maybe we should do some workshops. Maybe, you know, I think if people need to have a guidance in this, I think that's missing, because you have to have that spark in every given moment to think God first. And if you don't have that awareness, you need a trigger or something. Maybe it needs to be, there needs to be some kind of a guidance.
Well, I fall flat on my face often, but the reality is practiced awareness of centering upon God first will eventually become first nature. Right now, it's only second nature, third nature, fourth nature in different people at different stages of their journey. Even the same person that is first reaction God, there's a situation that triggers them such a way God was not their first reaction. It was not their first call. Mm-hmm. So in this experience, if we're genuinely understanding the importance of engaging, coming back to that comment about fullness of awareness and fullness of agreement, there are people through your life that have been revealed to you as trusted counsel, as people that function in fullness of agreement. Set yourself a system of accountability to know if you're functioning God's attributes or faltering away. Somebody came at me today yelling, screaming, blah, 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 blah. You know, well, I really did not relinquish the anger. I did not relinquish it, and it turned into a mess. Okay. So I come to the person I'm in agreement with, in counsel, in support, in love, and I say, you know, I really need to release this. I need to seek forgiveness from within myself, and I need to seek forgiveness for the nature of their actions because they knew not what they did. It was anger governing the nature of their actions. I responded in defensiveness. Mm-hmm. So there is, like you say, there is this recognition that there's a reality that we have to develop new responses to old natures, so that God becomes the first nature instead of the second, third, fourth, or fifth.
That's exactly what it is. And, you know, over the years, I have experimented with journals. And, you know, certain journals have a section, what did I do well today? What didn't go so well today? You know, at the end of the day, you write it down, but then it kind of stopped there.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I'm like, okay, you know.
So what do I do with it?
Exactly. And that's a missing part, I think. I think if that can be practiced more amongst humans, it will change the world. Right?
Well, like here's an example. Like, let's go back to spirit. When Anne was, when the animal, the jaguar, when Anne was listening, she honored the fact that he revealed these things, but she didn't attach to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And she allowed for it to just be relinquished of her and of spirit. She didn't hold it present anymore. But she was able to state that I see you, I recognize it, I understand, and she didn't hold it in her. Oh my God, I can't believe they treated you like that when they abused you in that place. She didn't go in judgment and anger for what was done to spirit in spirit's early stages of life. She went, I see you, I understand, you're not going to face that anymore. She immediately turned to the blessed directive, you are safe now. There are no expectations upon you now. And that gave spirit freedom to go, oh, she understood what I've been through. I'm not going to face those characteristics anymore. I can move with clarity. And all of a sudden, all his aggression leaves. He's out walking around with regal beauty and just incredible grace and poise in everything he was doing. So that's the same way with humanity. If we deal with somebody that brings to us something of a broken nature, even, I mean, if it's not anger, they bring us to something, deep sorrow, sadness, or grief. We hear them. I understand, honey. I can assure you that I am with you to support you. You're not alone in this. And I know that you feel that you've lost this person in your life, but the reality is we can recognize what they've become. We can recognize the blessing of all we received in their presence here, and we can know that we are not separated from them. We are blessed in the remembrance of that which they were. We are blessed in the reality of that which they've become. So instead of being locked in the moment of their transition through birth into new life, or people name it as death, we can help them look and recognize, yeah, I've conveyed that I lost my son, or I lost my brother, or I lost my father, but this person just helped me to look further than that specific act. Further to recognize that there is a divine reality beyond that person's birth into new life. Because they're calling it, they died. All of a sudden you give them a new language because you're not doing it of intellect, but divine discernment governs you to give them a language they're not accustomed to hear. So they look at it and go, whoa, what did you birth into new life? Yes, because this isn't an ending. Remember, the human existence of our reality is a minuscule aspect of our being. We were spirit first, entering upon a human journey, returning into spirit once again, and this time is so minuscule in the measure of our existence that when a person is so overtaken by the nature of a singular experience, sometimes they need the divine oversight that says, remember, it is minuscule in its nature. It does not define you. I, God, define you. Come to me first, and you will see, know, and recognize the one that you love in a higher state of being than you could have ever imagined. And it brings a person a hope. And it didn't come out of intellect, but they feel it in them. They know a sense of truth that came from that they didn't expect from this moment, because they wanted to perpetuate the suffering and be seen in the suffering, but they were received describing their suffering, but you gave them back a greater image of them.
Yeah, so we talked about how I look at it, our discussion here is we talked about the microcosm right now.
Yes.
One-on-one relationships mostly, but how do we deal with it? How do we transmute it? How do we
in the macrocosm, like the whole of humanity?
Well, now we're going to go to the macrocosm, and I see additional challenges there. That is that we have been conditioned. There's a corporate entities, there is media, there is messaging that comes at us humans that is stirring that fear, that is stirring the war machine, the thinking of drama, everything's dramatic.
And what did you just say?
What did I just say?
The thinking.
Thinking, yeah.
So what happens is the process of this experience is thinking and processing the past or fears of the future. It's not about bringing forth glory by discovering new understandings or expanding in an ascension awareness. It's about processing the stuff that's happening, or overthinking or overdwelling upon issues or matters that are unfolding. And then we become like consumed by what's unfolding on the corporate entity of a nation, or the corporate entity of our family, because there's a corporate entity there. And we're governed by things of a spiritual nature that others are stirring and poking, not ourselves. We are actually moved in such a way that we are governed by fear of what's unknown, because they're only giving us the fear that what they can observe, which is the misery. But if we can look at it in the divine and say, look at that spiritual unrest rising within that group that's attacking or tearing down these buildings or burning things or going after businesses. Are we immediately taking offense? Oh, I can't believe what those people are doing. Or are we honestly looking at it and saying, wow, look at the nature of how they're showing themselves to be lost to the understanding of truth within them. Look at how they're allowing a media-funded system that's all about money and gain to dictate upon them their reaction toward the nature of somebody. What if we shed that and looked upon the media as a revelatory instrument that doesn't know how to reveal in truth, but a revelatory instrument that shows to us segments of what's happening, the desire to create disunity? So spiritual deception, separation, division, these things. So we're praying for the whole of humanity to be awakened and remembered of divine unity in its place. Like we saw beautiful comments, like when Russia went after the Ukraine. And we saw people in Russia saying, this is not us. What are we doing? Mm-hmm. When that voice rises above the desire to express one's will above another, saying, whoa, what are we doing here? That's the view we emulate. That's the view we raise up. But if we're going to resist war, we're going to make more war. But if we elevate peace and the recognition of who we are and not being war, that's what will rise up.
I'm being an advocate of truth, just throwing some challenging stuff at you. Or I could just throw all the TVs out. I can sell my property, go somewhere in the mountains, live in a cave, and then just ignore it, right? Yeah. I mean, and then enjoy the nature and the animals.
For you.
Right. For me, that's what I want, right? I want to grow.
But what about the wisdom, the clarity, the knowledge, the understandings that you gain? What are they doing to serve the divine?
I can serve it myself.
In what way?
By contemplation, by studying nature, living according to the natural laws with the animals. I'm taking the example of living in a cave. I don't need other people. I don't need to watch I don't need to listen to the news.
But can I ask you do you hear what you're saying?
Probably not.
I. Where does this impact others? To evidence divine glory through creation. Because what's happened, on another note, is humanity has lost sight of the fact that this isn't about this human journey. This is about the restoration of the spiritual realm. Like Yeshua said, and many of you know his name as Jesus, Yeshua said that everything you see of corruption that manifests upon this earth begins first in the spiritual realm, the order of principalities. So what if this human journey is an ancillary gift? And what if we as humans started to recognize that it has nothing whatsoever to do with us, yet we are here to release the spiritual things, like that spirit of anger, like that spirit of grief, like that spirit of division, like that spirit of hostility. We relinquish these things unto the presence of the divine, choose not to embrace them, and we embrace God within its place. Because what did Yeshua say? He said, if you release anything of a spirit nature or anything of a demonic nature, you must welcome the presence of God within these places, or many of like kind will return. So if you're going to run off, which is great, if you're led to go off into a blessed solitude for a period of time, that's one thing. To embrace spiritual isolation and shut off everybody because you hate what humanity is doing is a different thing. It's perpetuating the spiritual realm. So if you could take the I out and realize what's my role with the divine, and my role in relinquish the things of the spiritual nature, then I would find that, whoa, the last thing I want to do is withdraw and isolate.
Because divine is all encompassing.
Exactly. There is no separation.
We're all one.
So why would I embrace something that is not of the divine?
Makes sense.
If I'm awake.
Yeah.
But there are people that aren't awake, and we've witnessed it through millennia now, with our truly blessed, amazing spiritual leaders and examples and teachers that left. They went off and hid in a cave for 9 years, not expounding any of what they've gained by their mere presence of existence. Because it's not like you have to go out and teach the world, and you don't have to say everything to everybody. But your example of living the nature of the divine through you will shift and change people.
I think many people are like me at times, overthinking things.
Yeah.
Not simplifying, right? We talked about this yesterday and today. It's so much more simple.
It is.
Everything so complicated.
Yeah. Well, man loves a project. He loves to create it and make it more convoluted and more difficult. And women have tremendous wisdom, clarity, and, like compassion within their words, but they also are so multitasking that they do bring emotive content to things that didn't need the emotion, and intellectual content to the things that needed emotion. So humans, we have a tendency to convolute the process. But what if it is as simple as looking at the nations, breathing deep first before we engage, seeing things on the news, engage first within prayer, and you can sense what they're saying doesn't seem accurate because it is that first nature, God first. That first nature, source, governs the nature of who I am. Source reveals to me things, God reveals to me things that are not of his nature. It's not to take offense to those things, but it's to go, oh, I see what this nation is. They're projecting from Russia and corporate spirit of oppression over another nation, or the desire to possess and a spirit of control over it. We pray freedom and release and pray in thanksgiving that all soldiers would find freedom from taking up the weapons, to set them down and walk away and embrace holy peace within this moment, regardless of what their cost upon their physical life, because they will not be harmed, because their spirit life will continue on. So when people are freed from the fear of death, freed from the spirit of oppression, their reactions and responses to situations like that would be totally different. We've witnessed it now with forced responsibilities within work situations that we don't agree with. People have gone out and done things to their bodies that they don't want to do. And they were fearful of losing the job. They were fearful of being seen as not belonging. So now if we could shift that to a place, I release the fear. Most of those people would have found that none of the corporations would have acted as they said we're going to. Because it turns out that they weren't mandates. They weren't even executive orders. They were just spoken and then picked up by the media.
Yeah.
So if people really saw it from a discerning level, they would have seen that, this doesn't define me. It doesn't govern me. And they would move with grace. And even if some company did act upon something like that, nope, I know there's an answer presenting here. And they would shift not in fear of loss, but in clarity and wisdom toward the direction they would have moved in their life that would support their beliefs, understandings, clarity, and wisdom. So again, it's the divine first. How do I measure the circumstance? Wait a minute, I'm really feeling anxious, fearful, anxiety, definitely fear again. I sit, and in 3 simple breaths, I release each one into the presence of God, and I choose God within their place. So I put God within the spirit of fear, within the spirit of division. I welcome in the holy unity that is God's presence within me. And instead of embracing the spirit of isolation, I am blessed. I am blessed to recognize blessed solitude. This moment of blessed solitude is at one with God. Therefore, I am connected to all things of creation. And I know the very nature of the person that may come against me cannot harm me because I am connected to God within them. And even though they wish to exact anger towards me, they cannot succeed because I am as God within them, as God within me.
Central topic for me here, listening to you, is 2 words: attachment and release. We are attached to outcomes.
Yeah.
Right? We are attached to the salary that we need to get.
Yeah.
Therefore, we need to follow the rules that the corporate world gives us. We are attached to maybe a church upbringing that we had.
Yes.
And the phrases that we have heard our parents tell us, like, God will punish you and things like this, right?
Yeah.
We're attached to things that we may have seen in a movie or on the news that was presented to us as truth, but it is not truth.
Yes, exactly.
All these attachments, right?
Yeah.
One thing that really, and I think this would be a good thing to transition a little bit to the role of grace healing as it relates to religion, in terms of talking to people that have grown up with a religion.
Yeah.
And how does grace healing, what kind of role do we play? We are not a religious organization. Can you maybe talk about that?
Well, one of the things that I would say is I would challenge anybody to honestly seek God first. Again, I mean, that is like the understanding that all truth and understanding comes first from God. The challenge is many times we put the spirit of religiosity first so that others might know of God through our lives. We make an allegiance to some religious form, some spiritual instrument or guide that does certain things to help us come closer to God. But the reality is there's a difference between forming allegiance to religion so that all might know God, or form an allegiance unto God so that all might be blessed in their journeys. There's a big difference between the two. So when people end up in this place where they're hanging on to measures of the past, I would just ask simply, how much do you trust God? Are you willing to come before the presence of God and relinquish what you think you believe? Are you willing to come before the presence of a divine creator that manifested and preceded the very measure of existence? There was something present before the measure of all that all of a sudden became all. And even as people look into time now with these amazing telescopes and things that are showing images, they're looking into stuff seeing that, oh my God, we weren't even seeing an nth degree of less than 1/10 of 1% of the universe.
Mere speck.
Yeah, a mere speck. So reality is there's something so vast, so considerable, so beyond comprehension. To me, that is God. So beyond comprehension, you can't even begin to conceive the nature of that which is God, let alone the nature of how God moves. However, if we become practiced in replacing the things that do not align with blessing, love, purity, clarity, understanding, grace, unity, instead of isolation, solitude, in a measure of strengthening, moving to a place of blessed solitude in the divine, which, if you really understand blessed solitude, it's not about being alone. It's about being connected to source, which connects you to all creation, and the solitude is found in being one with all. Okay.
That's true. That's beautiful.
You know, so when people take certain statements, they don't look for the deeper wisdom within it. So if you really understand what blessed solitude is the recognition of the oneness of all creation. Therefore, I am not isolated. I am as one in creator. Therefore, I am one with all I see. Therefore, we are solitude as one. We are solitary in the one that is the source. So if we expand into that of what like grace healing's role could be for people, it's to help them recognize, like, for instance, I'll give you an example. And I did this with you in prayer when you first showed your interest to walk alongside us within grace healing. We don't form for people in the prayer that they make an allegiance to grace healing. Religions do. And the way that religions do it with ministers or lay ministers or people that serve within their faith is they form a prayer that says we form an allegiance unto our faith so that all might know God through our works. That's the basic format for priestly or ministerial prayer on ministers. In our role within grace healing, we don't do that. We flip that upside down and we say we are thankful that we know of God's presence within us. We've been gifted grace to know of God's presence within us. We form an allegiance unto God, and we are blessed to walk alongside one another. There's no hierarchical form. There's different levels of clarity and attunement to God's presence, but we are in the fullness of agreement that it is God within us that's our first allegiance. And if we really understand what that fullness of agreement with God means, any act I choose toward my brother or sister or animal kind or like tree kind, whatever, if I'm going to do that, am I going to do that as God's presence? Or am I going to do that the way the wrongs of the past have defined me? The things that have been done to me. Am I going to come out angry because some guy happened to burn me out of 87 grand? Or am I going to come upset because of a person that tried to take my life, yet I'm still alive? Or am I going to celebrate the fact that God protected me through those settings and I remain whole to continue to evidence His glory on a daily basis? So grace healing, we're here to help people navigate this process side by side so that they remember the source of God's presence within them as their guiding light. Become practiced in the ability to recognize God as first nature instead of second nature. And that's what we do within grace healing, is help people gain that insight that they might not be able to separate themselves from how a person is attacking them. But together we can look at it and they go, oh, I see what he's going through. And they're able to see it. And then they can pray for them in love and step out of harm's way.
So that's a process of healing, therefore grace healing.
Yep.
And where does grace play in?
It came by grace. See, the reality is every single, and this is a bigger subject, but the reality is, I love that. Yeah, we do. But the idea of grace is the reality that every single measure and step we take within humanity is gifted by grace. So you have one person that's a billionaire. It's not what they accomplished. It's the fact that they were graced to function in that role as the heavens are being restored. You have another person that was graced in Mensa knowledge, understanding, clarity, wisdom on an intellectual level that's just not common. That was grace. It's not something they earned.
Or a scientist.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Scientists that found an amazing answer in one direction or another. I mean, we've seen examples that of people that don't have any science background, don't have any intellectual knowledge on that realm, and all of a sudden they get a gift from the divine and they produce this invention that transforms the world. I mean, even like we were talking about Hedy Lamarr, because we met this cat that's named Hedy Lamarr.
Yeah.
And she was this amazing woman that was an actress. But then she turned around and invented things that eventually became wireless and Bluetooth technology today. This was back in what, the 40s or 50s? Yeah. I mean, come on. So that's a divine grace that was afforded to humanity through an individual. But no, it wasn't the individual. It was God manifesting through the individual. If a billionaire has been ascended to a level of financial wealth and prosperity, it's not because of what they did, because there's other people out there with greater integrity, greater drive, greater passion that didn't have the same window of opportunity to put those efforts, and they went out and they lived a life while this other person is sitting up there, a billionaire, thinking themselves elevated as kings over the world, and they've lost sight that every single thing they have is grace.
So it's about recognizing what we have been graced.
What the source.
Yeah. The source, and what we have been graced for.
Exactly.
Because many times we don't know what our talents are, or what we have been graced with.
Exactly. I mean, you could even take it like, that I have a building business. You could look on a construction site, and there are certain guys that struggle every day to do what they do.
Yeah.
And there's other guys that just click, 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 click. They just know everything. And it's not like they study it, but they can pick up on it like quick. But you have one guy that wants to learn how to do rafters. And he has studied it 20, 30 times, and he just can't connect with it. And he ends up being a simple framer to do this, to do that, and then he can pick up and he can do finished things like this, but he could maybe build a cabinet. But the one thing that's driving him crazy is he can't do the rafter frame. And for some reason, he can't grasp it. Now, this other guy comes along, and he's graced in that avenue for the sake of that corporate entity to accomplish that said task. It doesn't elevate him above the other person. It graces him an opportunity to show gifts and talents that were given to him, showing God's glory, a task completed with integrity, in order, in proper finance, and honoring the client in a timely fashion that shows divine grace through that individual's engagement of their gifts and talents if they go in the nature of these things are unfolding. So all of a sudden, if they take the arrogance and think, I'm the best carpenter around this place, and they're starting to flaunt themselves above it, that's what they were talking about. Pride comes before the fall. A haughty nature brings destruction. And a lot of people get confused by that because they think pride is a bad thing. A prideful awareness is not a bad thing. It's the haughty nature that starts to express the pride in such a way that it brings harm. That's when it causes destruction. To be pride, in other words, attentive and in awe and recognition of somebody's accomplishments is a beautiful thing. But don't go to the haughty nature where it brings destruction upon them or others.
Human beings seem to have the need to measure everything.
Yeah.
And God's measuring stick. Is there a God's measuring stick?
Well, God's already the blessed result, so God's already at the end of the measuring stick.
And for a lot of society, it's out of sight. We have our own measuring things, like you described. We need to put ourselves on a scale compared to others and weigh
the comparatives
and the value that we bring versus somebody else brings to to humanity.
Well, can I show you how that deceives humanity?
Please do.
And like right now, there's so many people that are going through this experience. The nature of what's gone on over these last couple of years have forced comparatives of purchases within the real estate agencies and market to a false reality. So it's pressed it into a false sense of being because people are overextending their views and they're not moving through a prayerful, contemplative, discerning way.
You mean they pay too much for real estate?
Yeah. And then they inflate it once again. And then they bid with one another to raise it up, and people start to think this is sort of a real value, but that's not the value. The value was they found, oh my God, now there's a place I can go be safe. When they didn't even know that they can be safe within themselves. They didn't have to go spend $2 million on a house that was asking for $1.1 million. And it becomes inflated because they're not discerning the process of their decisions. They're reactive. And it forces that nature into them to react in such a way that steals provision, that could have blessed others in new ways. It moves resources into a place where it's gobbled up into a place that is fictitious. So then everything levels out and boom, the value drops. So now those resources that were expended into that can't help anybody because they don't exist anymore. But that's the governance of fear, motivation through self-interest, and it's not divinely inspired.
And so are many things. You know, I'm in the hotel business as well.
Yep.
And I see in the hotel, and it's not only the hotel business, in any corporate environment, you always compare the year-over-year growth, right? And I often wondered, okay, so how much more, if you have a business that exists for 20, 30 years, and every year you have to be higher, but it's a basic hotel, let's say a hotel that has 100 rooms.
Yeah.
How can you, over 20 years, year over year, improve, except you put the prices up? And
Exactly.
up, right? Something is wrong with that concept. And I think you hit it on the nail, you know, that we are unfortunately on the wrong path when we think that way.
Right. But there can be immeasurable blessing by following the right path, which is that divine wisdom, clarity, and understanding. To move into that place that is divine in nature, and you find yourself in harmony with the nature of how things are unfolding instead of governed by the mess that might be presenting to the earthly view. All of a sudden, people are governed in such a way that they move with a clear and discerning awareness, and they end up in proper standing before a situation instead of in the turmoil that's unfolding over in this place, or the distress that's happening in that place. They're moved in such a way that they are not participating in that. It's like you're skirting on these issues, but you're prayerful of them, releasing them. And then you're supportive of this, and you're moving in that direction.
And I need a lot of reminders in my own life of what you just said, you know, in any situation. And that's a good thing about grace healing. You know, I can call you anytime.
Yep.
And prayerfully together with you consider a situation that I'm encountering.
Exactly.
And, you know, everybody's invited to do that. And that's our main message really is you're not alone. And we are going through some change. Everybody's going through some changes.
Yeah.
And we don't need to deal with it alone. We have help.
Exactly.
And I think.
And back to that original comment about the change, remember to recognize that this journey is already understood and already blessed as God. God is the blessed result. So is it change, or is it progressive realization of greater blessing to an ascended awareness, an ascended understanding? So is it change, or just merely the unfolding nature of that which is coming to be blessing?
That's a really good point, because change can stir some fear.
Exactly.
The word change.
Yeah.
Like, no,
but if it's progressive realization, you start to realize that even if that's nasty, ugly, broken, or damaged, no, wait a minute. It's positioning me in power, not subjection. It's showing me that, I can kind of shift and move in this direction. And as you're allowing that through divine discernment, again, you'll end up placing your feet where they need to be instead of walking straight into the mud. You know, it's just, you'll find the ways to navigate differently because it comes through discernment, not intuitive form, not intellect, but a discerning awareness that now engages intellect. And I'm not saying you dismiss intellect, but you do divine first to engage intellect.
There's a nice tool that you taught me this weekend that I was here, and it's very simple. And you have to help me with this because I don't remember exactly. And that is rephrasing certain things that we say. Like, for example, if I say, "Oh, that's sad."
Yeah.
How did you rephrase that?
Again, you're recognizing that's a sad situation. Oh, but thank you is very revealing instead of it's sad.
Yeah. So then we would say that, express that.
Yeah.
That we find.
Yeah. So I think you said it around something that was happening. I was so sad when those people do that. I'm saying, no, it's revelatory. It's a blessed revelation. Yahweh, thank you that you revealed to me that these children of yours are evidencing this and bringing this instability within them to the surface. I pray holy stability back in what they witness, and I present unity, clarity, wisdom, and discernment in the situations that they face.
And that can be a mass shooting. That could be a dramatic situation.
Exactly.
Thank
you that it rises to the surface. May people look upon the truth of the matter of what needs to be resolved and not attack those things that are not of the truth. Mm-hmm. Because they're attacking aspects of it that have nothing to do with the fact that that person felt disconnected, that person felt undefined in limitations. So they're not looking at it. They're trying to blame it on a mechanical thing instead of looking at what's going on spiritually here. So we pray in thanksgiving that they are freed from the physical manifestation of what's going on in the earth, and they would be moved through holy discernment. It is not sad that these things transpire. I am grateful that their eyes are opening to see the manner in which they should move through discernment.
Hard to say for people that are in the midst of a drama like a shooting.
Yeah.
Hard. I mean, that's where grace healing can come in and help.
Right, but now remember, there is a reality that we have to deal with in the human nature. You may be sitting there with a vibration of 1,000. That person may not be able to receive all you have to offer them. There has to be discernment, again, because you're going to divine discernment, of that person only needs 150 of the 1,000 you have to offer them right now. So you're extending that 150 to them because you know they cannot bear the 850 that remains. But as the 150 lands within their heart and they begin to soften and open, and they start to seek greater understanding, and they start to move up to the understandings that you're witnessing, and it comes over a progressive realization of time in their process of healing. So if a person was just shot and a person is crying over them right now, we don't go tell them, oh, get over it.
Yeah.
We stand with them first and do the spiritual work. We observe them in love. We elevate them to be freed from the spirit of grief and sadness and sorrow. Yet they're speaking of grief and sadness. We're not telling them to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. We're prayerfully doing the spiritual work instead for them, in intercessory prayer for them. We're holding that ground as an intercessor in the time that they can't engage in that. So we're relinquishing that. And then it's going to be that you might have that 1,000 vibrational offering for them. They can only handle 150. And then as the intensity of the moment shifts and changes, and then they can handle 400. And then they see the love and compassion that you are becoming, which is God speaking through you. You said the other day you found God coming through your mouth like, whoa, that was amazing. And I was offering to somebody in this wedding situation that was knowledge beyond what I thought I had in me. Right. So God overtook your vocal center to bring forth wisdom and knowledge, which elevated now the person from 400 to 600. And they're ascending to this level of understanding that you know is divine, governing your thought process to bless them and your tongue to bless them. And all of a sudden they reach this 1,000 awareness. And then they're like, oh my God, yes, that person was shot, but I know him to be birthed into new life. And he doesn't even hold memory of pain, sickness, suffering, or death. Now I join you in prayer for the family members, the friends, those that face any sense of loss, that they would be recognized in the oneness of blessed solitude that is God throughout all creation and them connected to it, and they would know they have not lost a loved one, for the loved one is birthed into new life. Even though it was a wrongful act against man, divinity received and drew it close to his embrace. And it shifts people to the place of empowerment and truth instead of, oh my God, fear and suffering. Just a thought, you know?
I'm just in awe, like, I don't know what to say. It sounds so, natural and logic, or not logic.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
Because again, I believe that that's what God is order, love, purity, unity, structure, balance, all the aspects of the divine coming forth in these blessed, compassionate awarenesses of response instead of sympathetic awareness and response. So God is the blessed attributes. God is the highest measure of all the highest vibrational frequencies of humanity and creation.
So we have that divinity that we're talking about, that's that purity.
Yep.
And then we have these impurities that we are releasing. That's that we are releasing, so the pure can be
exactly
as it's supposed to be.
And if we really understand the process, we will remember that it's not something we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
When we surrender to that which is the purity of God within us, all of a sudden the purity is known and the spirit of lust falls away.
But we still feel we have to do something. We have to make an effort. Like earlier in the car, we talked about...
become practice in surrender.
Okay, stop me in the track.
What would you say? We were saying in the car.
I said that sometimes things need to be said. I forget what the context was. That you can't just internally, you pray internally, right? You can have your own conversation, your own discernment.
Yep.
But you need to express it, sometimes in words.
Yes.
For people to grab it, right? To understand it.
Yes. But are we approaching it through attributes of divinity? Are we saying, I can't believe you just did that, with impatience, frustration, irritability, or do we embrace the divine compassion? You know, honey, I'm a little concerned. I'm not sure why you made that decision. Can you help me understand?
So we still have to do something. Before you said we don't.
But again, we still need to hear them first. Yeah. So if you notice, I didn't tell them anything yet.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm asking for more understanding. What motivated that? I need to understand what's going on in your heart. What happened to you? And well, I can't believe this. Did this to me, and and they're relating it. And while they're relating it, you're doing the spiritual work again. It's a short while ago.
Yeah.
You're hearing them evidence the spirit of offense, irritation, frustration, anger, unforgiveness. You're watching this unfold and say, you know, I know where you're at. Is it possible that we could kind of pray for them? Because now you've done the spiritual release, releasing each thing that they've witnessed to you by their behaviors. They've shown you that they're frustrated, angry, whatever, resentful, unforgiving, whatever, all these things. And, you know, can we do something together? We're married for life. I love you dearly. Can we just join together and release those people from that experience? And then join together to agree that they can be blessed and wake up to the nature of their actions? All of a sudden it becomes the two working together to do spiritual work together and evidence the new heaven, evidence the new earth.
Very good.
Just saying.
Just saying, yeah. We could go on for hours, but very good. So we started this conversation I started it by saying I want to talk about change.
Yeah.
But I kind of learned it's not about the change, it's about embracing the discernment that I can see in things that are happening. That it's not about measuring the change. And the fact is that in this world, everything is measured by external measurements.
Exactly.
And by moving away from that, you know, practicing discernment, we will better not only ourselves, our relationship with Source, with God,
deepens, which we become more of Source, Creator, which means we reflect more of Creator in the nature of our actions, and it transforms those in front of us.
And because it's not just I'm going to say the word I less after this discussion. It's not just I, because we are all one. By doing this work with myself,
exactly,
it benefits the unity of things.
And like you said, you were saying this earlier when you say about grace healing and the work that we do and stuff like that. It's like you're saying the only time that it really becomes the I in it, like what am I doing to become more of God's presence? How am I surrendering to become more of the blessed nature? not what they're showing me in their actions, not what they're trying to do to me in their attack, but what are they positioning me in? Are they gifting me with wisdom by their actions, even though they look kind of nasty, to position me in power? Or am I falling for the lie that they're somehow forcing me into a place of subjection? I would rather look at it like every single thing that rises on this earth is positioning me in power, first through prayer, second through action. So even when you say, if I'm going to engage in intellect, I'm not going to do it until I engage in discernment. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to God first, and then at a certain time, compassionate listening might be the answer right now. Knowledge might not be the answer. Yep. Don't want to tell them that while they're in need.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they come out of the point of need, and now they're searching to discover. They're searching for answers. At that point, well, what are you feeling within you now? Ask them where they are within their discovery process, and then you help and gently guide them into the remembrance of their origin as God, their origin manifested in life from them, and do you remember that life is permanent? And then you gently guide them into this place of recognition of truth, and that they've positioned this experience as they're lying, crying over this person that's laying on the ground. It's to position them in power, not subjection, both for that person that's transitioning into new life and all those people that are witnessing this situation. Mm-hmm. And as you know, from a personal respect, in losing my son, didn't expect to lose my son in his early 20s. And embracing holy discernment through that experience positioned me to be present for all those people that couldn't answer questions. Mm-hmm. I was able to release the spirit of grief, release the spirit of sorrow, disillusionment, doubt, denial, going through the spirit of denial. And all of a sudden finding God's presence and being able to be fully present, because the knowledge came into me that fear nothing, for my son is with me. I mean, God stating, my son is with me. And as one with my presence, in my heart, what I felt was, do you love him enough to release him unto me without ties? Well, of course, I love my son beyond measure. So the best thing that I could do was relinquish ties or expectations that I had upon the possibility of spending a life on earth, because I know I'm going to be birthed into new life, and this is going to be this momentary existence. Mm. And in that, until I'm birthed into new life, from this momentary existence of his birth into new life to my full walk of the human existence back into the divine, will be like a blip in the totality of my spiritual existence. So I'm not going to hang on to the negative attributes of the nature of that which I experienced with my son. I'm only going to embrace the reality as he is one with God, without veil. And I'm the one that continues to traverse that process with veil. I am celebrating the fact that he is fullness in God's embrace, limitless in his ability to serve God in ways that he's always wanted to his whole life. Mm-hmm. So again, if we get consumed by the spiritual process, we can't touch the deeper wisdom. But if we release the spiritual process, we are present to receive the spiritual wisdom in the deepest, darkest moments, and we become the beacon of light in those darker places.
Wonderfully said. I think we'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I agree.
I just want to tell everyone, please go to gracehealing.video. We have a plethora. Is that the word? Plethora of videos that we have done over the years, over the last 6-7 years, with all sorts of topics. And we're trying to find a way to organize it a little bit different, that we can actually make it easier for you to find by topic. And hopefully we can achieve that sooner than later. But go to gracehealing.org, which is our website. Gracehealing.video brings us right into our video library channel, YouTube channel. And also I wanted to point out, and I learned this weekend being with you, Larry. I realized how much you do. I know Grace Healing is not about Larry, but I know how much you do, and that you may receive phone calls, late at night or even in the middle of the night or during the day when it may seem inconvenient. And you do a lot of prayer calls with people. And there's an opportunity for you to support our efforts. It takes time and effort and money for us to to do what we do. So we have created a new platform on the website where you can donate if you feel led to do so. It's a very simple process, and we appreciate any support that we can receive going forward. So, all right, we'll wrap it.
Yes.
All right,
And
thank you.
blessings to you all.
Thank you very much, everyone.